All right, let's make sure you guys can all hear me. Should be able to hear me. We'll make sure that I've got my system all set up. All right, we are doing labs today. That's what we do on Sundays. You might notice I don't have the closed captions on. That's fine, because what happens with that is I guess Twitch has some pretty good closed captions that you can just turn on if you want. So you can do that. I think YouTube does as well, so you guys can see closed captions without me doing them myself. So if anybody misses the closed captions, just let me know down in the Discord and I'll work to turn them back on in the future. But for now, we're doing systems work. We are securing our Linux a little bit. This is also part of a series that I'm putting together for the people in our Discord. Discord's free. All you gotta do is go join it if you want to be part of that. But we are doing system security. We did 2 other labs the other day. So if you go watch one of our older videos, you'll see that we did some unusual user login attempts and then pseudo behavior. And the next one we're going to do is kind of like the idea of a golden image, the hardening of a box and getting it to a security level that's acceptable for our organization. So we're going to do a Linux lab, and we're going to see what that activity might look like as an admin on a security or on a Linux team. You know, your security team comes to you and says, I think it says it right here, your server team has a golden image that it uses to deploy new servers. Okay. So somebody's put some engineering time in and made decisions around the software packages you're going to have, what's going to start up, what ports are open, what kind of security is baseline to your system, right? So somebody's decided that. Somebody probably before you got hired, right? And there's a security requirement to not introduce old vulnerabilities into an environment when deploying new servers. That's a real security concern, right? Like the security posture of your organization is going to determine what kind of appetite you have for risk, right? And what's allowed to be there. So we can't have a golden image that's using an older version of SSH than what we just patched last week in our environment, right? So it stands to reason then that you have to have a process to update this golden image or this system image that you have. So we're going to look at that. Your task is to update the images to the newest software packages. So we got to update this server that we're on. This process happens quarterly in your environment, so that's how often by default it comes up. Maybe sometimes it happens, you know, more often or less often depending on what's going on in the industry and what vulnerabilities are determined and stuff like that. But typically most teams will do this every few months, right? And it's a lot of times it falls to a more junior engineer to do. So, you know, this is a perfect thing to learn early on in your career. The server's been started. All right, I'm going to link this to you guys too. So here's the lab we're doing. I'll link it to you guys on Twitch, and I'll link it to you guys over on YouTube that want to do it with me. You guys are welcome to do the lab with me. You're welcome to, of course, take your own notes. But we're going to ask ourselves questions kind of as we go and figure this out. Server's been started, and you need to update the software before repackaging server back into an image. So it says verify that the system was last patched, check if the system needs to reboot, see if the system has any patches that are ready to deploy, and look to see if there's any SSL packages that need to be updated. All right, so first question might be, where do we see when the system was last patched? Where do we find that piece of information, right? And there's a little bit here in varlog apt-history.log. We don't see anything in here, right? There's nothing showing in there, at least right now. And then there's this if you want to just find today's date, and today's date's not in there because there's nothing else in there, right? So that's okay. So it's normally going to be in varlog apt-history.log. Also, and this is your Ubuntu style systems. If you're in a Red Hat style system, right, I can pull up my little Red Hat system here. Hold on, where's my Red Hat system? Well, we'll use Rocky Linux, which is basically the same thing. And if I were to try to figure that out, I may be able to say cat var log dnf dot log, right? And that would show me what's been happening inside of DNF while it was trying to install or update things, and if there were any messages or errors or anything like that. But then, so DNF has that functionality. But DNF, oops, they also have another cool one that I really like, which is this. I can say DNF history, right? And DNF will give me a history of the last things that are there on the system. Now, I don't know if that functionality exists with apt. I don't know if anybody knows that. I don't know that right off, but apt may have, if we read a man for apt, is there a history? Nah. Nothing coming up for hit or history. Not that I see there anyways. Also, nothing for history there either. Anyways, so the point is you can go and look at that. You can also always man apt and look for logs. Where does this thing log to? Or man dpkg and see where this logs out to, right? And you got var log, dpackage log. So it's very possible that if there was any valid information that it would be there as well. So let's go keep looking at this system here. Hey Tamar, how's it going? Hopefully this stuff's useful to you. Thanks for the resubscription.
Let's do some.
Let's do some Linux. Got to do all the Linux. What are we working on right now? We're doing just one of the labs. We're doing 203, which is the updating a golden image. And the premise here is that we're a junior engineer or junior admin on our team, and we're being asked to pick up, turn on a server image that we have and go and do some updates. Now, you might just say, well, Scott, why can't I just update all my servers like this? Well, actually, that's a valid thing. The running servers also need this. But the server that gets picked up for the pipeline for new server builds is also going to typically get this. And different teams are going to have different methodologies for this and different ways. We'll look at some of the other ways that you can kind of do this as well here in a second. But let's get through just the basics of it. Let's go see if the system thinks it needs to reboot. And so one of the tasks I have here is how do we know if the system thinks it needs to reboot? And then another question to that might be why. And that would be either for kernel updates, because we always install a new kernel and then have to reboot and move to that kernel. Or the other reason, besides just a kernel update, would be dynamic libraries, right? And what will happen is if the reboot required file is there in an Ubuntu system, it'll actually tell us that the system wants to reboot. So that's kind of nice. But there's also a tool. Also, if that's there, then you'll have this file that'll tell you that it wants to reboot. So in Ubuntu, you have the var run reboot required, and then you also have var run reboot required pkgs, and those will be there in a little bit when we actually update these systems and want to go to reboot them. We'll see that value, right? This is an important thing, is seeing these things happen, right? So then we're going to install a little tool real quick. We're going to say apt install -y needs restart. So this is going to be another little tool. This actually can go on both Ubuntu or Red Hat systems. So this one goes on both. And this is apt install -y need restart. And then watch what this one's going to do. This one's actually got some cool little behaviors to it. If you do a need restart -l, it'll tell you no services need to restart, no containers are on a newer image has been pulled down for the container, no services have been updated as far as their daemon reload has happened, but the service itself has not reloaded, and no user sessions are running the outdated binaries and libraries that I was talking about, right? So there's also no kernel problems right now. So this one tells us about services, containers, and binaries. And it's specifically talking about user sessions because if a user were to have logged out and then come back in the system, they would have gotten the new session binaries that have been installed. But if they were still running, like users will have long running processes. You'll see stuff in like high performance compute. I will have jobs that run for weeks and weeks. You do not want to be in the business of killing off like researchers and scientists and people at big colleges and stuff. You do not want to be in the habit of killing off their long running processes. They sometimes are chewing through just heaps and heaps of data. And sometimes in case petabytes of data that we've pulled down into some of our big HPC systems, and we just can't be, their user sessions are going to be outdated on the binaries that they're running. So this is the kind of thing that you can track and know, but you can't really do anything about it until you can reboot the system. Does that make sense? So I tell you guys, sometimes servers do real valid work, and you have to really be. There's interesting problems to how you get to update servers and that kind of stuff. So this is one of these things that we understand about as we get into actual operational planning and working on systems. So now we're just going to go ahead and say update the system. Now updating the system in an Ubuntu sense is not the same as an upgrade, which actually does the work. Update just goes out. So let's go here. What does update do in Ubuntu? And it stages. So it updates metadata for repos. And then what else does it do? It also stages packages to upgrade. Now, it's actually, I take that back. It doesn't really stage them because staging means it actually pulls them down. So it doesn't really do that. It just updates the metadatas for repos, finds and enumerates, let's say, the packages to upgrade. But it doesn't stage them yet, because that would imply that it downloads them, and it does not download them at that point. So once we have that, though, we can list what's upgradable in our system. So how do you... And in Ubuntu, we just saw, it is apt list upgradable, right? And then if we want a very specific one, like we just want to see the SSL that needs to upgrade, we can go right there. So we can say apt list whatever value we want to search for, right? In Red Hat, it's a little different. We can simply say DNF install and then list of packages will be generated. Now, you don't have to use the list, right? You can say no, as long as you're not just dropping -y's everywhere. You can do a DNF update in this case, and it'll go and it'll find what the system sees that it needs. We need some dependencies. We're going to install these. We're going to upgrade all of these things here, but we have to install a new kernel. You can't upgrade a kernel. You can only install a new kernel and then move to it. It's very important. It's like a hermit crab. You can move from one to another. You never just install a kernel in place. That's not how it works. All right. So how do you list what's going to be upgraded? Rel, you can do your DNF install. You can still get away with apt, but get used to DNF if you're doing Red Hat. Here's a good one to think about. Why might we care how many, or why might we care the size of the download? I mean, like we've got this size of download here is 642 megs, right? And we think 642 megs, that's nothing. I got all kinds of disk space, right? Well, where is that going? Do we know where that goes in a Red Hat system, right? Time it's going to take on all servers. Absolutely, yeah. If you're pulling this disparate over the internet, that's going to be really slow. In fact, a lot of times we want to pull this down to a centralized place first and control our repos and then distribute it out. I do have eerie music in the background. I do. Yeah, I'm running Pretzel Rocks with the spooky music. So, yeah, a little bit of spooky music. I think I can even post, like if you guys ask, I think I can actually make this tell you what the song is. You might be able to do, well, maybe not. Does it not go to the main partition? Well, it doesn't actually. Well, it depends. Did you properly format your system? So in my system, it is going to go to this partition, but I'm going to show you why here in a second. The place that's going to go in an Ubuntu or in a RHEL system is cd var cache and then DNF. So that's where it's going to go in a Red Hat system nowadays. And if I do a df-h on dot, I'll see that that does happen to be my own system here. But if you're in a properly configured STIG environment, that's going to be its own directory. And you may need to make sure that that directory's got enough space, because they're not always, people don't always give a lot to var. And these do fill up to be many, many gigs over time if you don't clean them out, right? So why might we care the size of the download? Well, do we have the space? Rel, it's var cache DNF. And how much space is used in here right now? du-sh dot will show me it's 94 megs. But if I download this right now, it's going to be all 642 megs in this directory as well. Now, we can also set whether or not DNF caches and apt caches and all those kind of things. We can modify all of those default behaviors, but this might not be something you want to figure out while you're in the middle of a patching weekend, right? Or in a patching downtime where you're hitting maybe a few hundred servers and you find out that like 50 of them have to go and be manually touched like this. Bad time to figure that out. And I've been there, and thankfully we had a lot of people on because it was early on in our patching where we were figuring this stuff up. All right. So Amin asked a good question. How do we exclude or limit packages from being upgraded? And I don't actually know how to do this in apt, but I'll show you guys how to do it in DNF. So you have etc dnf.conf, and in here you can actually exclude. So I'm going to exclude now anything kernel. So kernel anything is going to get excluded with my DNF call. Now I want to show you guys something real quick. We're going to go up here real quick. We're going to scroll up. And when I did a DNF earlier, it wanted to install kernel core, and then there was some stuff at the bottom. We did a DNF update, and it found that it wanted to install the kernel. You guys just saw me do this. So I'm going to do a DNF update again. And now we've got the kernel excluded. So watch when I go up here. It's no longer there. It no longer wants to install the kernel. There's no longer going to be a kernel update. I'm excluding the kernel. This causes a few things. So how do we exclude it? We make an exclude line in etc dnf.conf, and that's our RHEL systems, right? Apt, I'm sure there's some kind of way in apt. I don't know exactly. So Chinga, there is, so kernel excluded would keep us from having to reboot for kernel reasons, right? Like let's say, but by the way, so you can update the kernel and then still not reboot. You're just not going to your new kernel yet. So, and again, there's other reasons to reboot, other things that will go out of sync over time if you're not rebooting your systems after patching. What I have done professionally a lot of times, and this has been with relatively, this has been pretty good anyways, is we would patch all of our servers monthly, excluding the kernels, And then once every 3 months, we would do our kernels and reboot. So that stays pretty clean. Now, there are reasons to go more often than that, and it depends on what we call the security posture and security appetite of the risk side of your company. So your company has to be involved with risk management and those kind of things. There's like risk management frameworks that you can use to determine what is your security vulnerabilities and security whatever. But suffice it to say, most of us don't reboot and patch the kernel every time and stay on the bleeding edge newest kernel. That's very rare for companies, at least in production. You can do that down in dev all you want, but up in prod, you're going to be staying back for stability reasons, right? So let's move out of here. Let's keep going in the lab a little bit. So we've listed what's upgradable, but we haven't done anything. So I say you've checked the current state of the system. Now it's time to upgrade everything, right? So we're kind of switching back and forth between Ubuntu here and Red Hat, but I want you guys to see that patching is patching. You just have to learn your tool, right? You have to know your tool well for whatever your environment is. And if I did more professionally with Ubuntu, you better believe I'd spend more time with this tool. I know Ubuntu in passing from building the labs and stuff like that, but I do a lot more Red Hat professionally, right? So anyways, all right. So let's see. We're going to set a little timer on the front of this for our own fun to know how long it takes to upgrade our system. So it's going to say apt upgrade. And there may even be, it's kind of interesting to me, sometimes it'll actually ask us a question. I'm not a big fan of when it does that, but we'll see. See if it asks us a question over here. We're just saying -y, so answer yes to everything. So this should really just run through everything for us. So upgrading the system, you can do apt upgrade -y to just default yes, right? And then you can DNF-y update. Now that is also, again, one of these. This is Ubuntu. This is our RHEL, right? Red Hat Enterprise Linux type systems, right? That's taking a little time. It's updating. It's doing what other kind of good things it wants to do. Thanks for the follow. It's Lucro. Hopefully this stuff's useful to you. And we're going to let that patch up, and then we're going to go look at it a little bit. So we upgraded the systems, but then we're going to look at the state that the systems are in. We'll see the information that we saw earlier about the packages, the things that we were looking at. We'll see that it thinks it needs to reboot over here in Ubuntu, and then we'll see that we'll see what happens. We can't actually restart this system because it's in a lab environment. If you restart it, you're going to leave the lab, but it's still, you know, good to see. RHEL is pretty prevalent in HPC, yeah. Although we're using a lot of Rocky right now, so Rocky Linux is kind of an install that we've been doing quite a bit. So my company contracts, the company I work for, we contract through Dell for a lot of work, and then it's actually been kind of funny. We've been doing a lot of these builds for Dell, and then they've been doing hardware for other customers, and then the customers are like, "Oh, we don't like this other solution. Could you do this? You know, could you guys do this?" And Dell's just been telling people, "No, go to Redline." So my company's been doing a fair amount of installs of new. We've been doing a fair amount of installs of Werewolf and Rocky for people. But yeah, it's pretty prevalent, RHEL across HPC. It's very powerful. Bobby, any way to get Rocky into Killer Coda? No, I don't control Killer Coda. Kim Woostekamp does, and I'm on their Slack, and I've asked for a few things before, but they don't have a lot of intention. Yeah, like this. I don't like this where they ask questions like that. Like it just popped up. There was a little TUI in the terminal. I'm not a real big fan of that. But anyways, no, I don't have control of getting Rocky in there, and they don't really have much interest in doing that. So I've asked them before to maybe give me some small disks in a lab, and they've told me that that's not in their plan. And I said, all right, that's fine. I'm not going to push on it. You know, you guys are giving this for free, so it's pretty good, but yeah, they don't have Rocky. So most people that want to play with Rocky are probably going to have to build in their own lab. That'll probably just be a thing for people. Like you can use, Ubuntu and get a good amount of this, get the understanding of it, but then yeah, when you go to play with Rocky and install and do that kind of stuff, you have to do it in your own lab type thing is likely the way that they're going to put it. So, all right, approximately how long did this take? So, again, let's hit enter. How long? So now it gets to the end, and it says that we've restarted some services, no container. Took about 4 minutes. We don't need to write that down for ourselves here, but if we go check the logs, right? So now we see the logs. And we might say, right, like approximately how many packages were updated. Well, we also saw earlier in here, if we go up a little bit, when we first ran it and said how many upgradable packages do you have, the system told us that it wanted to upgrade this amount of packages, right? It told us an actual amount. Let's see if we can get there. Don't know if we're going to have enough space. We might run out of space. Yeah, we ran out. We ran out of scroll back, as we call in the system. That's fine. How many packages were actually updated? I wonder if they give us a number here. No, they do say upgrade. Hey, Oregon, over on the YouTube side, how's it going? We are just doing labs and looking at things. Doesn't look like they're going to count them for us. We could count them, but that's not that big a deal. We could have the system count them for us, right? Let's just go with... I wonder if I could... Absolute NF. It doesn't matter. Anyways, the point is, we can see this. We can see when it was patched. So we see when it was patched. We see what was upgraded. We can see a bunch of stuff about it. But then we can go back and do our needs restart again, right? We do our needs restart. I'm going to hit OK. And needs restart -K. Well, it definitely wants to boot to a new kernel, right? So we can see that there. But also we could do just a needs restart by itself. And it'll tell us that the system does want to restart, right? Restarting services, restarts. These things they all need to be restarted. No containers, no user sessions. But we know that the system wants to reboot. If we do uname-r, we can see the version of the kernel. And if we do a dpkg-l and grep for, let's just do Ubuntu, we should see, I guess I could probably look for something better than that. We need something better than Ubuntu for our search. What's the name of the kernel? Oh, we'll just do it that way. Oh, they call it Linux image. So we've got this older one, but now we've also got this newer one here. So if I do a uname-r again, you'll see that we're on 540-131, 540-131, and we also now have installed this one, which is where the system wants to boot to, right? So, we could ask ourselves some questions about that, but I think that we know that the system wants to reboot. It needs to go to a newer kernel. We could also, we can ls boot like this as well, and ls boot will also show us that there's that newer version of the kernel right there. There's a new initRD and a newer version of the kernel right there that are needed for the system to come up, right? We can look for that as well out of the bootgrub.conf, and we'll see that the system wants to boot to the new version. And then the older fallback version is the old 131. So these are the new ones that it would boot to. And then this. Also, I think if we were to add, let's say grep -I, capital E, and maybe name. I think it's name. It might be title. Give it a second here. Let's go see. It might be title. All right, screw it. We'll just cat the file. What was it? Oh, it's menu entry. Sorry. Let's go do this. Let's just do this with menu. And the reason I show that is now for any one of these, here's its name. So it's Ubuntu with this, and then this is the version that it was going to boot to, right? How's it going, Revisualize? We're just kind of hanging out, doing labs, right? We do labs on Sundays. And we are answering ourselves some questions here. And where do you see there is a newer kernel on the system? Well, current, you can always check the current with uname-r, right? Uname-r should always show you that. And then new is going to be in ls of boot, and then VM will work. We'll show you the newer one. So here's the old one, here's the new one. You could also new, you could grep, i.e. this is what I was using, was menu and VM linas from boot. What was I using there? Boot grub. And it's also grub 2 sometimes, right? Depending on the system. Rocky, like newer rel boxes and Rocky type boxes, they would have grub 2. However, my boxes boot a little differently, so they don't technically have a boot directory because they're booting off of a kernel image and stuff. So my Rocky servers are kind of like a weird amalgamation of they don't exactly fall into any of this patching type idea. They're a totally different beast. All right, anyways. So it says we've recently chosen. So how do you check current package versions, right? This is very important. How do you check current package versions of a system? Or if a system's even got certain packages, right? So let's clear the screen, and we can do dpkg-l, maybe grep for SSL. What SSL do we have? What SSH do we have? What things have SSH around them? Revisualize, you need to refocus on your RHCSA stuff. Nice. Took a few weeks off and probably shouldn't have, so I'm going to re-push through. I'm debating streaming to hold myself accountable. Do it. Do it. You should. Anything that will keep your hands on the keyboard, I think, are good. I've told you guys, I like to keep my hands on the keyboard to stay sharp. I mean, I work in the field, but this is also part of what I do on the weekends, you know, hang out with you guys and talk through things and make sure that my brain's still working right. So, yeah, I think you guys should absolutely do it. You should absolutely stream it, too. I think that would be good. All right, so is everything still going up there? All right. We got those things going. We got those. Let me check something over on Lightbot. Let me go look at my timers. No? Guess we're good over there. Okay. All right, good. Sorry, I was just checking some stuff. So how do you check the current package version in Ubuntu? You would do something like typically dpkg-l grep-i for, package. In rel, you might do something like rpm-qa to get all of them, grep-i for package. Right? Something like that. And that's super useful. You can do all kinds of things with it. Like if I wanted to ask, like, if I looked at this and I said, how lean is this server? Is this server like not got a lot of packages on it, or is it got a lot of bloat? I can do an RPM QA and I can just do like a word count -l and it'll tell me this thing's got 505 packages. That's not quite like a big bloated server, but that's not as lean as I like to run my compute box. I tend to run compute boxes under like 250, under 300 for sure packages, because I just don't need all this different stuff on here, right? Like I don't need, like if I do a, if I do like a which gzip and like a which bzip, yeah, there's no bzip. You don't need both of them, right? There's packages that just don't need to be there on a system anymore. So I would definitely tell you guys, like, you don't have to run everything on a system. You don't have that would be like if you got up in the morning and you're like walking out the front door and you're like, well, I need to have everything I own in my pocket just in case I need it. Well, that's fine, but like your surfboard, you might not need your surfboard in Phoenix. So maybe you leave that out of your pocket today, right? Like maybe you don't put that in the pocket. And it's like the same idea with a server. Like if these servers are just going to do fast computational stuff, they don't need all these packages, all these other tools, right? One that we often leave off is zip and unzip. Why would I need zip and unzip on a compute node? Doesn't even make any sense. And you might say, well, that's not all that much, but it's like, yeah, but I can keep my users from accidentally pulling down a package and unzipping it in the wrong place and having way more load or way more just disk space being used on a compute node than I need, even on accident. So we're kind of protecting our own users from themselves. Yeah, and Ergon over on YouTube, yeah, Killer Coda I think is the best site on the web for people that want to get into this stuff, but you don't have the time. Like maybe you want to get into this, but you don't have the time to go build out your own home lab environment. I do think Killer Code is the best thing on the web for those people. Because I tell you guys all the time, when I got into this, if you wanted to be a Linux engineer, I'm not trying to like graybeard you all and say like, oh, you had to do it my way. I'm telling you, the only way you got into Linux when I started was somebody threw you a CD, and if you couldn't install Linux, you couldn't be a Linux engineer. So that's kind of brutal. But for us now, you guys can go play in Linux all day on Killer Coda for free. Get all kinds of hundreds of commands from all kinds of different labs, right? You guys can play in there all day and then decide if this is something you like or not, right? Like I tell people all the time, like sometimes you look at all this and go, nah, that's not for me. I don't want to do that. And I say, well, that's good. Aren't you glad you figured that out here on stream live for free? Than going and spending a bunch of money in college or something, or going and spending a bunch of money in training and finding out that you hate command line. Because a lot of people hate command line. People that don't hate it, sometimes they like it, but they can't do it. So then it's like, well, I'd rather find that out now for free. All right, anyways. So we're going to see if containerd is running on the system. Well, it is, because even though it's just a basic little Ubuntu box, we're doing the ability to have containers and packages. We can run containers on this box right now with Podman or Docker. We have both of them. So we don't want to do that right now. We want to turn all that off and disable it. And also bzip. Bzip is there, but bzip has been supplanted by gzip, which is a better tool. So maybe we don't want to use that anymore. And our security has found a reason to remove it. So we're going to go ahead and say, well, how do you remove packages that are unneeded, outdated, out of security compliance, Like, it doesn't really matter why you have to get rid of them, right? So in our Ubuntu system, we're just going to say app-y remove packages, right? And in rel, we're just going to say, if we were doing rel, we'd say rpm, or actually we could use dnf remove package as well. You can also get away with rpm-e in the package name, but sometimes DNF might be a little better because it's going to understand some of the dependencies better, how it got installed. Hey, Chris, how's it going over on the Twitch side? We are not working super hard today, but we are doing labs, right? That's what we do on Sundays. We hang out and do labs. I do have creepy music playing, which is fine. I think that's fun. We'll move to something more upbeat later, but let's go ahead and remove these packages. And if I remove them, I verify that they're removed. I can also go and look then, when these are gone. Lab's good. But we can go and look and say cat var log app.log. Oops. What the hell was that? History. And then in there, we can see that we removed those. Yep. And we may even get it in the dpkg log. I'm not sure. Maybe. Does it show that it removed those? It does say, it does give us a little more about what it did to those as it removed them, right? It's getting rid of whatever those things were that weren't supposed to be on the system anymore, right? Getting rid of containerd and bzip, which were our most recent commands. So that's just going back and rechecking that file. Where's that file at? I think it was up here, yeah. Right, so why did it do that twice? I don't know. Anyway, so we can see how we remove packages that are unneeded, outdated, out of security compliance. And then we go revalidate dpkg-l grep-i for bzip. Nothing. Oh. Is containerd there anymore? It looks like something for containerd is still there, but is the process there? Systemctl status containerd, and it looks like it's gone. Well, it's still there, but it's stopped, and then now it's low. It's set as masked. In case anybody wanted to turn it back on, you can't turn it on when it's masked. You have to unmask it and then enable it, but it's gone. The service is gone. Aaroner said, I'm trying to figure out how I can use a custom repository source in rel. Can this be done by ad hoc command with a link provided, or repo URL should be added separately? Yeah, so Aaroner, if you want to run your own locally, this is how you do it. So I'm on like a Rocky box here. If I wanted him to, if I wanted to use another, either like I could have a static local ISO. I don't have any ISOs mounted locally, but here's my Rocky repos, right? And what's going to happen is I have like a base OS, and then I go and I connect out to, basically you need to just follow this. You need to give it a name. So here's the title. This is a title block, I guess, if you will, as far as this is the full directive. You need to give it a name. You need to give it a base URL. And in this case, it doesn't have a base URL because it has a mirror list. So one of those two have to be there. Then you have to have enabled. You have to have whether or not it's enabled. And those are the minimum. So you have to have, obviously, the start of like this is the repo name or like a directive. Then you give it your short name or whatever. And then you typically have to give it either base URL or a mirror list. Now, you want to go local, right? So your base URL here, you can actually set this to be, instead of HTTP, it can be a local file with an ISO on it. So what you would do is you would mount the ISO. I don't have an ISO here. I don't have an ISO here, but you would mount the ISO, And then you would do basically this same thing here. You would say file 3 slashes, it's weird, and then the path to the metadata for the repo. And what I do typically is I'll do a create repo, which will, once I have it mounted, because that will make all the metadata for all the packages that are inside of there. But all the things that I just described to you are pretty easy to find. So if I said local file repo in like Rocky or rel, it sounds like you're going to use rel. Yeah. And then like this is just the way you would do it. So this one would be if you were to set up a web server. So if you had it somewhere out on a web server already. Let me see. I don't know what he's doing up there. Looks like they're just downloading. They're downloading everything. So no, that's not the best way to do that. These guys might have a good one. Let me go see. So they've got it shared out locally. So this would be if you want to share it locally. And then on your machine, yeah, you're just going to go build. Those are all the disabled ones down there. But now they're using their local system. So I don't normally do it like this where I share it from a page. But, you know, this is how they're doing it. If you want this page, do you want this one, Aaroner? It's really just as simple as thinking about where you want it to be set from, and then you just point your repos to it, right? And whatever this value is, you use it up here. So it's port 80, so it doesn't mean it's got to be secure. Also, you can secure these. We secure repos for STIGs all the time, but that's pretty much it. And then you just make sure that that's enabled. You could do the DNF clean all and DNF repo list, and you'll see your repo in there. So hopefully that's clear. Hopefully that's clear as mud, right? All right. Where else were we at? So look at you learning security. You updated golden image so the new systems you deploy are patched and do not introduce new vulnerabilities. All right. So I'm gonna back out of this lab, and I'm gonna say so. The next lab. So we're doing each lab like this, right? And I'm going to say lab 4. We're going to jump to lab 4. But this is going to be an Ansible lab that does the other side of this. So we just manually did all this stuff in Linux. And I'm going to show you guys how to do it. So you manually did all these tasks in Linux on one server. I'm going to show you how to go do all of those things on all of your servers with Ansible. All right, is that fair? It's going to be bright for a second. Let's go look. I'm going to show you guys the exact same thing, but now in Ansible. Where's that? Web server deploy. Yeah. So this will be this lab, which is a Ansible lab. I'll link it to you guys over here on the Twitch side and then on the YouTube side. So now we're going through, these are labs that are up in Killer Coda that are free for you guys. And we're just building on and answering different questions to ourselves. We're basically proving to ourselves that we can do these things. And what it says right here is you cleaned up the golden images over in the other lab. So this links back to the other lab, so you could go do that lab. Now your team needs you to deploy that change to all the active systems. So you've got 30 other systems. You've got 100 other systems. You've got 10,000 other systems. I don't care. We are going to now clean up those systems just like we did on that system. All right. And it says verify your root host files. So cat root hosts. We have an Ansible playbook. It is set up with one host group with 2 nodes in it. And then it says to verify our other files. So we can cat root remove packages.j2. This is a Jinja 2 template, and it tells us an output of what happens from the play, right? We'll go into it a little bit. If you've never seen this, this is a variable in Ansible and also in Jinja 2 where it says Ansible date time and date. So it's going to stamp in there the time that this playbook was run on whatever system. And actually, this is going to run only once against our local system. It's going to tell us if there were any systems it couldn't reach. And then it's going to tell us that it removed the packages that we said for it to remove. So this is very important. We want it to do something. We need it to go validate that. All right. One other package to look at, or one other file, is root remove packages.yaml. And this one is, if I go look, it's going to go against servers. Servers is the host group. Good, good, good. It's going to go and check against them to remove. It's going to remove these two packages, containerd and bzip. It's going to purge them, make sure they're gone, and then it's going to save that as a variable. We can debug that variable if we want and look at it. Then it's going to go and it's going to check that it's gone for both bzip and containerd. Good, good. Then it's going to come down here and it's going to build out that template that we give it, and it's going to write it once back to this local host. So it's not going to write on each node. It's only going to write back on this one. So it's doing all of those things that we had told it to do before, where we were over here doing app-y remove for each package. Now we're using Ansible to do it against, in this case, a list, a hard-coded list. But we could feed it a list in if we wanted to as well, right? We can feed information in whenever we want to. So we go and we look at all the things. And we may want to remove the comments if we want to see the debug. We'll go ahead and do that. So we'll VI that file. And all we're going to do is XX, 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 make sure everything's lined up. And then we'll debug this at the end. So we'll X. Got to make sure everything's lined up. X, X. Yep, everything needs to be properly lined up. It looks good. And all this is going to do is it'll debug to the screen so that we can see a little more of this playbook happening, right? And again, what's this playbook doing? It's starting out, it's getting the host group, which is from the inventory file, and it's going to be just control plane and node 01. It's going to remove the packages on both of them. Then it's going to tell us what that variable looks like so we can do stuff with that variable. Then it's going to go back and do a simple little shell command to just verify that they're gone. And it's going to register that back and show it to us. That's what it's doing there. And then it's going to write it all out to that little report that we have. So let's try it. It's one of these things we can just test our playbook, right? I wrote this one a while ago, but I know it still works. So it's going to remove all those packages from the system. It's going to do all the things we just did in the other playbook, or in the other lab rather. And it's going to do it without us having to go and touch all the nodes. If you've never used Ansible, the next question is, well, how easy is it to add my other 28 hosts? You just change the inventory file, point at all 28 hosts, and it'll go. Now, it's going to remove this real quick, and then when it's done, you're going to see a big explosion of all the variables. So watch this happen real quick, because it's important to know this, because we want to see the variables as they exist, as Ansible knows them, because then that helps us to print them out. So after you look at the variables, and then we go look back at the actual playbook, or at the Jinja template, you're going to go, oh, that's where they got that from. So watch this here. This is the variable here. So you've got to verify app results. Then in there, you're going to have the first item here, and the first item here will have a return code of 1 and an item name. So verify underscore apps dot results dot item will be the name, and dot RC will be the return code, and then we can do some logic on that, right? And then the second one is here, and we'll see that it was containerd, and the return code was 1, meaning it was not found. So that starts to become real clear when we say, excuse me. So here's the packages. Hold on, let's go look at what it looked like when it ran. Let's paste that. That's what it looked like. System validation at this time. Does that look right? Yep, it's in UTC, so it's way ahead of us. Way ahead of me anyways. I'm only at 1146 here. No systems were unreachable. These packages were removed. Okay. But let's go take apart how that got generated from that little Jinja that you just looked at. So more remove packages.j2, and Again, this is what came out. This is our system validation over here, right? That's what it looked like. But this is how it was generated right here. So for host in play host all, so it went to control plane first and then node 01. It came in and it looked for in host vars and then that host, which was control plane first. Verify apps.results, right? And then if the package return code was equal to 1, so if the package return code was equal to 1, then it said host package.item was removed. So it gave the name of the host. Package bzip in the first case was removed. That was this one right here. And you might say, wait a minute, but it wasn't verify underscore apps results. It was just host and then dot item. Yes, but look, the way a counting loop works is I said for host in Ansible play host all, but down here we said for package in host vars host verify apps.results. So now we're counting over package.item because we're already looping over all of this. I know it seems like a lot, but if you get into it and play with it, it makes a lot of sense as you go. So our little Ginger template unraveled and basically put this on the system. Now, there's a problem with this playbook, though. I want to show you guys. I'm going to run it again. I'm going to run this again. And I'll show you guys the problem with the playbook. So I'm going to run fine. It's going to validate that nothing's there. It's even going to write a new version of the report. And when we look at it, the version of the report's going to be accurate. This is an accurate version of the new report. But there's a problem with this. Does anybody see what the problem is with my output there? Or let me ask you this. Is my output there telling you the truth? Or is it telling you a half-truth? Is it kind of accurate but actually incorrect about something? I'm going to take a drink of my Monster here while you guys figure that out. If anybody's doing this lab with me, is this accurate? Or is it incorrect for some reason? I'll get rid of this because we don't need it. Nobody? Sometimes I gotta take her. Hold on. Give me 1 second real quick. I'm gonna grab some more water. Got a couple water bottles right here. Nobody? All right. This is saying that it was removed. And that's not accurate because I removed it the first time. This time, I only found it was not there. So it would be more accurate to say package was not found. You know, package bzip is not there, right? To say it's removed implies that this first part right here removed it. But we didn't remove it. Oh, this part right here. We did not remove it. They were found to be gone already. Does that make sense? Like if I told you, if you said, "Hey Scott, did you clean up my yard?" and I go and I clean up your yard, and then I tell you yes, and then the next day you say, "Scott, did you clean up my yard?" and I go look out back and see that it's still clean enough, and I go, "Yeah, I cleaned it." You'd be like, "Oh, you cleaned my yard twice?" And I'm like, "Yeah." No, I'm lying to you. I didn't do it a second time. This implies that it was removed again. Like, oh shit, it popped back up and I had to remove it again. But that's not correct. So where I'm saying, the reason I show that is it might just be pedantry, it might just be whatever, but you probably want your results like this to be as correct as possible. And you say, well, why? Well, because eventually this is just going to get fed out to a security team. And one day, somebody that's maybe newer to the team, maybe a little more astute, maybe somebody who's like trying to just kind of rise the ranks so they're working real hard, is going to look at that and go, oh shit, why did we remove all these packages? You know, why did we remove all these packages across all the environment last night. There was no work for that. And then they're going to dig back through and they're going to go, we remove it every night. Oh my gosh. And they're going to look through all the reports and then they're going to come to you and you're going to just have more time on the team. Yeah, how would we fix this? Yeah, we would go fix it. It's our file, right? It's our Jinja file. So the way we would fix it is we would just say the correct thing here. Instead of saying was removed, is not found. You could say is not found, is package, not found. Or you could say, let's just say not found. That's fine. And then really at that point, it's just us running it to show them that it's not found. Now, but the point is, you say, well, Scott, I could just fix that whenever I want then. And I say, yeah, that's fine. Sure. But you go do that in front of the security team and they're going to go, what's he hiding? Why did he have to change his, why did he change the terminology right there? And you're like, oh, mother effer. It's just, I'm just telling you guys, it's going to be more work for you. Let's do more on that. So now it says, not found. But the point is, you could be more correct. And actually, we could play with that, and we could probably even put some logic in there to show when it removed packages and to show when they were just not found, right? We actually have that, those two variables, right? Because we have the original removal right here. Where's the, removed app changed false, so it didn't change. So then we could say that it wasn't found, right? So we could do that if we wanted to. But I'm just telling you guys, you'll sometimes find that you do things and you don't even think about it, but it profoundly affects future use work and workload, because now you're like face palming and trying to explain things to people and they're sitting there thinking that you're trying to hide something and you're just like, oh gosh, I just want to go back to watching Netflix and hanging out all day, but they want you to do all this other stuff. So anyways, then you can go look at all the reports if you want. I wrote a little thing that'll let you see all the reports. So this lab is super fast. But what is this lab? So what is this lab doing? Like what do we do in this lab kind of? If we go back, we'll just go back to the beginning and look. It says we updated in the golden image. We're verifying our hosts, right? Cat root hosts, right? So verifying our host file. And what did our host file have? It had it's an inventory file, and then here's our host group with our two nodes that we were going to clean up. So what's the lab doing? Verifying our host file. Then we are verifying our .j2 template, which is Jinja 2, right? And Jinja 2 is very much just like, not much like, but it treats everything the same way Python does because it's all Python under the hood anyways. But verifying our Jinja 2 template, we see the variables. We see the logic, right? We see the looping, right? So we've got some variables here. We've got unreachable systems. And I've shown you guys this before, but for people that have missed it before, this is the syntax. There's actually other syntax. I was looking at somebody else's Jinja 2 the other day. One of our guys posted in the Discord, and we were talking through it. There's different template formats you can use for Jinja. I didn't know that. I had never used anything but this. But here's a for loop, and we're going to say for host in all the play hosts that started this play. So let me show you guys. There's some special variables in Ansible that come into play here. So we come here and we say Ansible special variables, right? And here's the special variables that always come into play in Ansible. So I'll link this to you guys here. And then I'm going to go throw this right here. Right? Lord Processor, will doing a lab in the prologue book help you land job? Lord Processor, I think that there's a few different aspects to getting the job. if I were to try to break this down for you guys, the question is, will doing the labs help you get a job? And let me we won't use that one right now. Hold on. Let me show you. Hold on. Let me show you this other one here real quick. Hold on. Because it's gonna make me move my whole screen around. All right. Hold on. File. Open recent. Linux systems admin. So the question was, will doing one of these labs help you get a job? Right? That was the question. And Lord Processor's around a bit, so I think he's probably asking it, honestly. Right? He's not like trying to trick anybody here or anything. But this is what I show you guys often about Linux, right? About like the types of work that we do, and we tend to come in over here. But I guess I gotta add something to this real quick. I gotta kind of draw like this. Let's maybe make that white. And then let's say, like, what do I think is going on in the Linux world, right? And I think that if you were to make me divide this up, this would be, I would say, let's just say over here is well, let's divide it in half. Let's just do this. And I'll say this over here is knowing Linux. And this is knowing let's just say knowing why people use Linux. Right? Companies don't just put Linux in to be able to say we use we hit 10,000 nodes of Linux today. Nobody does that. No company is doing that. So like this right here, knowing Linux and stuff like this, this is, this is practice and study and labs, right? So yeah, labs will help you with this part, which is knowing Linux. Then the other half over here, which is knowing why people use Linux, and it's, support, business, processes, right? Business processes or whatever. Then this, I would say, is the other half of it. And to that point, then, like, we have in our Discord, right? We got a Discord down here for people. So hopefully nothing's getting spoiled here for people. But in our Discord, we have a section with all of this Linux group stuff that we were just running, and the Linux Systems Administration course. And what I tried to do in here was show you guys how Linux interacts with like a business. Like, you still had to know a lot of Linux, right? But it's not just knowing every single, like, I don't need to know every single nuance of like how LS works. Like, I don't need to know ls, ls-l, ls-al, and ls and ll and what's an ll and where do I use that. Like, I don't need to just be able to just spit this stuff out of my head as fast as I can. That's not going to help you get the job. That may help you if you're like going to win the Linux championships of people with like mild to severe autism, maybe, right? Like, I mean, that may help you to just like be able to spit out every command that's ever been written. But that's not really like that side of it, and like that technical deep knowledge of it is tremendously valuable. I'm not trying to take anything away from it. I'm just telling you, if you're the smartest, best Linux engineer in the world that knows everything, that's still only half of it. The other half is being able to interact with like how the businesses are. I mean, if you want to get a job, if you want to work with people, even consulting in Linux, you need to know why they're using Linux. They're not using Linux to say they're using Linux to their friends at the country club. That's not why people use Linux. Never, never in all the world. So, anyways, my point in saying that, Lord, I'm not trying to hammer Lord Processor here for asking the question. I'm saying, like, yes, doing the lab and doing the Prolog stuff will help you get the, yeah, Linux Country Club win. Yeah, like, that stuff will help you get the job. Obviously, you got to know the Linux stuff, but I do think there's a value to knowing why people use Linux and how to interact. The days of us just being really good at this and then them stuffing us down in a closet and paying us a bunch of money are gone. We have to work with I have to know developer stuff. Like I told you guys back in like 2016, I had to start learning how to use Git because, yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. I just, what's this lab doing? Let's this lab is showing you how to productionalize that. So what is this lab doing? It is productionalizing via automation the security fix that we had done manually. In fact, I think doing Linux manually like we did in that first lab is really good. It's really valuable. You know how to do all the things. Like, this is really good. All these individual things here, you will need to know how to do in Linux. You will need to know how to go check, like, what was put on the system because somebody put something that shouldn't be there. And then you'll have to see if your systems need to reboot. And you'll have to remove packages and upgrade them and stuff, sure. But also, you need to be able to do that to 1,000 systems in one day. Otherwise, like, that's going to become a level of tedium that most people can't handle because that will be boring. And also, you just can't sustain that. A company can't sustain that. They're going to go look for some other tool. Like, and honestly, like, why would I use Linux for 1,000 servers when I can use Windows Software Update Services and hit one button and patch all of my damn Windows servers? Right? We don't like to think, like, in the Linux side of things that we compete with, like, Windows and other operating systems, but we do in the workspace of ideas. If we can't support what's called productionalizing of services, we don't compete. And look, I mean, I tell guys all the time, do Arch Linux. It's fun, whatever, but it's not going to be professional, right? Like it's not something that people use for 1,000 nodes or whatever. There's just nobody does that, right? Certified to host Skip Lab, but I only know basic use of Git. Nice. It's like chef knowing how to cook but not bothering to ask customers what they want. Yeah, Chingo Pot. It's actually funny you say that because when you look at ITIL, if any of you guys ever go play in the ITIL space, I think ITIL's a great framework for how services work and how stuff works. But when I did ITIL training, I remember looking at it and going, oh, that's interesting. It's like I'm becoming a chef and I'm handing out a menu of, you guys say you want a server, and I can come back and build that server for you in the exact way that you asked me to. And then the goal of, in my mind, automation is to do that with me being able to still focus on other things and other tasks and stuff, if that kind of makes sense. So, yeah. So, hopefully that's useful. Yeah, Chris, I think you were the one that showed me Lazy Git and Lazy Docker. Yeah, that's all. I think the tools are getting better and better, right? But you would probably still tell somebody, hey, to fix something, you need to know the underlying pieces of this. So after you get used to using it, in a like Lazy Git fashion, also go understand what it's doing under the hood. But I often tell you guys, like, there's no reason to open up the hood of my trunk or the hood of my truck and see what's going on with the engine if it's starting and running, right? Like, I mean, it does say in the owner's manual you're supposed to do that every time, but most people don't, right? As long as it's going and getting regular maintenance, it should be good. Fun fact, you guys want to hear something fun? I bought my truck in 2018. It is a 2019 Colorado. I just hit 60,000 miles on it 1 week ago. You say, wait a minute, that's like 6 and some change years. Yep. My last 2 jobs, since I've gotten it, my last 2 jobs were all within 3 miles of my house. So even before COVID, I wasn't driving it much. And since COVID, I barely go anywhere. So I just hit 60,000 miles on my truck. That's about 6 years and 3 months old. I got it with 5 miles on it. Nobody had even test driven it yet. So yeah, I love my little truck. Yeah, I know. Yeah, and they're always sending me these things. It's actually really funny. They're always trying to get me to come and turn it in at the dealership and get a new one because I paid it off years ago. And the they're always trying to sell me, and they're like a few like right as COVID hit, it was still worth 30,000. Now they're trying to tell me it's worth 17, and I'm like, no, I'm not selling my truck for 17. I'm gonna drive that thing till the wheels fall off it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Lazy Git does have some cool colors to it for sure. So what's this lab doing? We're productionalizing the solution to a problem we had earlier. But anyway, so what are we actually doing in the lab, right? These are the hands-on things that the lab was doing. Verifying our Jinja 2 topic, that kind of stuff. And then we're looking at our playbook logic, right? And what was our playbook doing? What was it? It was remove YAML, right? And what did this thing do? It just had our normal little, tells us that it's YAML. That's what the 3 dashes at the top of the line are. Start of a YAML file. In fact, I think I've shown you guys this before with Kubernetes. You can have multiple files and just keep putting the dash, dash, dash. And what that makes the API do is interpret each of these as their own file. So that's like if you're ever feeding up, if you've ever got a bunch of files that you're feeding up into like Kubernetes, like you're deploying something with a whole bunch of different YAML files. This is the denotation of the start of a new YAML file, right? Anyways, Ansible, we've got an arbitrary name. Can be literally anything you want as long as you're not abusing special characters in here. Then it's got the name of the server. It's got any variables if you have any special variables you want to add. Oh, I didn't finish this. Hold on. Guys, I apologize. Let me get out of there real quick. I didn't finish this. Hold on. I didn't finish this. I didn't finish this explanation for people because some people need this explanation real quick. I want you guys to note there's an Ansible playhost all and there's an Ansible playhost. Do you guys all see that? I didn't finish this earlier. I just realized. Now I'm going to go to my special variables and I'm going to link this for people that want to follow with me. Here's our special variables real quick, right? So follow along real quick if you want. There are all kinds of special variables. Look, Ansible has a little sack of variables that it carries with it the entire time that it's running. And two of the values in here are Ansible playhosts and Ansible playhosts all. So, Ansible playhosts all is lists of all the hosts that we're targeting to play. Think of this like if you've ever seen people running around a track. This is everybody that's at the starting line ready to run the race. And Ansible playhosts are all the hosts that are still in the race after a few laps. You guys ever seen, I always use this example, some of you probably think it's silly. Does everybody here know what a steeplechase is? What's a steeplechase? It's this race that's the most ridiculous race you've ever seen. And it's got water. Hold on, look. See if somebody's got a good explanation of a steeplechase. The most common distance is 3,000 meters. It's 7.5 laps around a 400-meter track. There are barriers that they have to jump over. There are water jumps that they have to jump over. If you guys have never seen a steeplechase, it's you got to jump over these bars, which are kind of like they're not hurdles because hurdles will move. This will just bounce you off and break your leg, right? Then hold on. Then there's like water. Oh, God, it's ridiculous. I'm not going to show it to you guys, but you guys can go look it up. Anyways, my point is, if you've ever seen a steeplechase, people have, like, broken ankles and they're off to the side. They've got busted shins with big red welts on them. It is the stupidest thing I've ever seen humans athletically do, right? And I've seen some pretty dumb stuff because I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so I've seen people hurt themselves pretty good. Well, anyways, where I'm going is, these are everybody at the starting line. These are everybody that are still in it that haven't broken something and fell along the way. And if you ever run a long Ansible playbook, you'll see that things get busted and broken along the way. So, where we're going with this is there's this simple little logic I use. I start with everybody, and then I just check if you're not in the playhosts all, meaning I started the play looking for 100 nodes, and then when all the Plinko machine came to the bottom, and we were all done, and we did the Jinja template at the end, if your name from there is no longer in the people who got to the end, I say your name, meaning you were unreachable. Now, you might say, well, Scott, hold on. Logically, couldn't it have broken on the 95th play or task of your playbook, and then you would still have put it in unreachable because it didn't make it? And I'd say, yes, you're right. But here's the reason I don't care, is because I want to get to the end. Like, I'm used to doing what's called painting with a wide brush. I have 1,000 nodes I have to patch tonight. I want to patch the 970 nodes that are just going to get done and no. And then the ones that break for whatever reason are going to be in this list right here. And then I can start feeding those off to my maybe 4 other junior engineers that are around. I can say, hey, here's your list of 5. Go figure them out. And now you might say, well, when you start to figure out, yes, we could start to figure out what common errors are, and we can start to clean our systems beforehand to try to minimize problems. In fact, I actually have promised the guys that I'll do a talk on that. When we do, hold on, we've got a discussion coming up here. And when we do patching, lifecycle matching, updating, deploying. So updating systems pre-checks before patching starts. I need to add that in because I told the guys I'd do. Actually, the guys asked me for like a whole lesson on that. So I will do that one of these days. Maybe even up in the Discord we'll do that. Anyways, let me pull that back up because we need that. Back here. Okay, so looking at our playbook lines, I wanted to show you guys though, that's how we get our unreachable systems. And then remove packages is very similar. We go over all the play hosts, and only if the verify apps is defined, meaning it got far enough down to get to this, do we go through all this. Because if it doesn't have the verify apps defined, all of this is going to fail anyways, so we just kick it out here. So nodes get kicked out, and then they never get down into this logic where it actually says whether or not the things were there. So, okay. Yeah, so there's that. And by the way, guys, we can't, in that idea too of pre-cleaning our systems and stuff, you can't possibly, like, I mean, we're not Tony Stark here. We can't in our technology, right, what basically ends up being magic, automatically account for literally every contingency. That's not possible for us. But what we can do is we can find the big ones. One of the big ones that I sometimes show you guys is this. If you're in a Red Hat system and you're about to do your DNF update here, right? You're about to do this update and your system breaks, and it breaks as you're starting to do it, but it almost always is because of an RPM rebuild, RPM DB rebuild DB. This is actually a command right here, right? And this, if you do this command before, right? If you do this command before you patch, then maybe of those 1,000 servers where you were going to get 970 good, maybe this preemptively fixes like 8 of them. So now 978 were going to be good. And then another very common problem, I was showing you guys this earlier, df-h on var cache DNF. And if this had been its own file system, which it sometimes is, it will be almost full. So if you come in here and you just remove everything in var cache DNF, maybe that saves another 4. Now you're up to 982 servers. 982 servers is only 18 I have to remediate out of that 1,000. That's a pretty good night. That's maybe, guys, that could be the difference between going to bed at 1 a.m. in the morning from a patching night and going to bed at 2 a.m. in the morning. And for, like, that didn't matter to me in my teens and 20s, maybe even into my 30s. But in my 40s, I'd prefer to go to bed at 11 or at 1 if I could, you know. So anyways, my point is, we can do these things to make our life a little easier in the systems world. But anyways, all right, let's keep going down on this. So looking at our playbook logic, so we'll get to that next part that I was in. And we did that, and then we get to our tasks. Tasks are sequentially done through the system. So what did it do? It's running against the server's host group. Right? And then we have our tasks. And the first task is going to use apt as the module. Right? And it's removing a list of packages. Now, some of you guys, we did this talk a while back, so I'll pull this up and show this to you guys. But why might we, if we use apt right here as the module, and then in the package we give the list here, did you guys also know that instead of doing it this way, we could loop and give the packages down here outside of the control of the system, and just do item right there. And you might say, Scott, what the hell are you talking about? Why would this matter? Well, let me show you guys something. Let's go to Discord, and let's go back up to where I asked this question, because I asked in the Ansible code quite a few months ago. We were troubleshooting some stuff yesterday. I think we have really good talks in here of people discussing and working through stuff. So if you guys ever need to see some good stuff, I'm gonna go back up here. I want to say it's up a little bit, but I'm gonna just scroll up. If you guys want to go on our Discord and look for this stuff, you can. We have a lot of good stuff in there. This was a backup script I wrote. I actually have to deploy this again for some customers, but I write my backup stuff. I write a lot of my stuff outside of work, and then I bring it into work so I can show it to you guys. And I do that on purpose so that you guys can get some value out of it. Hold on, I gotta scroll up a little bit. I know a lot of scrolling. Actually, I know how to find this a little easier, but let's just keep going. When I asked this, some people went to ChatGPT and found some good answers, but I like that they got blurred out. So, hold on. The answer, they hid the answer. Ah, here. Okay. So, this is the question. This is, can I make this bigger? No, I can't. This is the crux of the question that I was just asking, right? And for people that use Ansible, this will be a good one for you. If people that don't use Ansible just kind of glaze over and say, well, I could do it either way. If you're doing Ansible under 30 nodes, what I'm showing you doesn't matter. But if you're doing Ansible against thousands of nodes, what I show you right here is going to save you literally hours and hours of time. So, which of these is better is the question. Should I put the list right here to unpackage if I have a list of servers in the module? Or should I put the package as item here and then loop over here as a control structure inside of Ansible each time? And which one of these do you think is going to use more or less memory or time or computation? And then another way to think of this would be, instead of guessing, how could you check this? Couldn't you just go do both of these? That's what I tell you guys all the time, right? We don't have to guess as engineers. This is one of my favorite things about engineering. I don't ever have to guess. One test is worth 1,000 expert opinions. I can just go do this. I can go do this on the different nodes. We could test this right now if we want. I'll show you guys how to test this real quick if you want. Test which one of these is faster. Test which one of these does something different. So some of the guys came down here. They had some good answers, right? Some people went and got it off of ChatGPT, and I think that's why they hit it. But yeah, what's the what do you guys, if you want to think about it, think about it. But I'm also going to come over here and I'm going to actually I'm going to show, oh, look, not in there. We won't do it in there. We'll do it in the, where's the lab? Here's the lab. We'll do it in the lab. It's got 21 more minutes. I'm going to clear the screen up real quick. I'm going to VI hosts and I'm going to do something. I'm going to say he's going to get out of there. He's going to get app equals, let's call this, we'll call it app equals DB, and this guy will get app equals DB1 for simplicity's sake, right? And then we're just going to VI test.yaml. It doesn't really matter what we call it. And we're going to drop those two in there. And DB, hold on. Let's head our remove packages.yaml because I need this little block here. And then VI our test. Paste. All right, got to move all these over. I always forget how to use the visual block. Somebody's gonna have to help me out here. What is it? It's like this. And then what is it? Just tab or something like that. Enter. I can never remember how to do that. I don't do that very much, guys. It's fine. We'll do it manually. We're doing it live, like Bill O'Reilly. We're doing it live. We'll be all right. We're already done. Yeah. I always forget. There's a Pessa always shows it to me, and then I always forget. But it's like visual block. What do I do? I think I messed these ones all up. Guys, I don't do that enough. I probably need to spend a little more time with it. Oh, I jacked all this stuff up. That should be fine. That should work. Escape, :WQ. All right. So real quick, and then I got to VI my. I got to cap my host again real quick. It was DB and DB1. So DB in app and then DB1 in app, right? But now I want to do something real quick here just for fun. Oh yeah, these are messed up. I did jack these up, didn't I? Oh yeah, that'll work. No, hold on. You. I jacked this thing all up. That should work. Been a while since I looked at these. Yeah. So it can be lined there. There. Good. Okay. Because as long as those are lined up, and then app packages should be in one. Okay. But state can be out here still. App package state. Okay. No. State definitely needs to be indented. There we go. All right. Better. All right. But loop does need to be out here, as does when. All right. So we're going to do these two things, but then we're going to do this as well. We're going to, for up here, we're going to register a variable as well. So to register a variable looks like this. So register, and we'll just do, I don't know. What did I call it? We'll just call it we'll call it package. And then package install. And then down here, we'll just call this loop install, right? And then we can go down here and we can do two other ones. So we'll say name, debug. And then we'll just debug them both real quick, right? So we'll go debug, and then the var will be item, right? And then the loop will be over. We should be able to loop over package install, and also loop install, right? There we go. All right. This will either break fantastically or it'll work, so we'll see. Ansible, playbook, -I, hosts, and then test. Let's see if it breaks everywhere, if it works. All right. But when this is done, we could, I think it'll have the timing in there. If it doesn't have the timing in there, that's fine. But the question is, which one of these takes longer, right? And let's go look at what's actually happening in the memory. And Pico, who does this stuff professionally quite a bit, was quite right. The loop will be slower and then redundant in every case he's thinking of, and he's struggling to understand why you use loop. I'd agree with him on that. Loop for this is going to reinstantiate the apt package module every time. And that is not going to be nearly as fast as calling it once and handing it a list. Yeah, looping is much slower on Python, 100%. But again, this is one of these things where we can go and verify why. Yeah, and then this is from a I think Kano said he threw this into a he threw this directly into like a chat GPT and asked it. And it says, look, first is using package with a list directly, and second is using package with a loop. That's 100% correct. That is 100% true about Python. Like, this Ansible stuff, I tell people all the time, Ansible does stuff very well, and it's a scaffolding, and it does looping well, but it does not do things fast. It's not, I wouldn't say it's designed to do things fast. All right, so when we did this, it showed us that it was installing it all, and it installed on both. But I think the way that I had originally done this, when I proved this out, is this. This is dumping a lot to the screen. So here's the first one, and there's his standard out from um, the run. And I believe he is going to. So this was package install, and it was just in one call. And then up here, see, you're still going to get a mess either way. But this one looped over both in the same output. So check this out. This is the way that you could see it too. We'll take away the debug, because the debug can kind of make it harder to see. There's another way. Oops. There's another way to see this. Watch this. We're going to do the same call, but we're going to add a bunch of verbosity to it. So we're going to see how, and now this is going to get messy because it's going to be a whole lot of blue, but we'll see which one is being more efficient with its calls, right? Now, in both cases, it actually just found that everything was good, so it didn't have to reinstall. But even then, this one had to call the module twice, whereas the first one only had to call the module once and fed it a list of 2 items, right? So, you know, we're going far into the weeds here, but I think that that's kind of valuable for people who want to dig in a little bit and understand that, like, most of us don't do this like for 1 or 2 systems. Most of us are doing this at scale, and it does matter that you feed the list in like this. Whereas like ChatGPT might give you this because it's like, oh, he wants to loop over a list of values. This does work. This does not work fast. Do you ever use the quad V? No, I've never used the quad V. Does that go? I don't know what that would go to in Ansible. I've only ever gone to 3 Vs. I don't know if it goes further. Forbidden verb. I like it. All right, guys. I haven't been like stressing it too much, but we do have a Discord. We are over 3,500 people, which is awesome. You guys are welcome to hang out down there, talk shop. I think there's a lot of good engineers, even smarter and better at this stuff than me. But sometimes I ask questions, and sometimes we work through stuff. But a lot of people post what they're working on and as they're chewing on problems and stuff. And you'll find it in here. You'll find a lot of good stuff, I think, in here, guys. So, and we have years and years of Ansible up there. So for people that want to learn it or get little tips and tricks, I wrote one just a few weeks ago that goes and captures a bunch of they're not even actually Cisco servers. They're just Cisco iOS-like servers from Dell and NVIDIA, and I pull their configs out of them, and I download them to the server. And the reason I did that, actually it saved me. The reason I do that is to get a config of all the switches, and then one of the switches got blown away in a power failure. Well, we did a power failure scenario, and it hadn't written to the startup. And you say, wait, somebody didn't do a write mem? It wasn't that we didn't do a write mem. There's a configuration that will protect the static startup, and you have to do write mem twice. And you go, really? Yeah, I had never seen that before. But there's actually a setting in those boxes where if you do write mem the first time, it warns you. And I must have been doing it procedurally because I missed it. And one of my gateway switches came back up, and it did not have the right config on it. So I went and I got the right config from my backup in Ansible. And I wrote that. I put that up here. So if anybody needs it, it's like the simplest little thing ever. But it still works against all my nodes. Right? And then it also uses a vault. So you don't have to worry about... sometimes you want to vault like login credentials and stuff. So anyways. Lots of good stuff in there, right? Lots of good security stuff, and backing things up is a part of security. Being able to recover and get to the same operational state you were before a power outage, whether it was on purpose. We were doing a full system shutdown to test. We actually pulled the breakers on those systems and then turned them back on at the data center level. They wanted to see all 9 racks go down and come up. No, this isn't configuring a firewall. No. This is, we were pulling information. We were cleaning up packages that shouldn't have been there on a box. Synonymous. That's what we were doing. We were doing this lab right here, lab 17 of our Ansible labs. And we got into that because we were doing a lab earlier where we were pulling a bunch of stuff off of a Linux box to adhere to like our hardened standard. And then we also kind of got here too because the question was raised earlier. Shweddy, we did not lose any disks, surprisingly. We're using... no, surprisingly, in that cluster, we did not lose any disks. We are using some XC, I think 4640s or something, which are like these big disk array. They're direct attached disks, and those go to like our head nodes and then our job schedulers. So we have a couple, I think those boxes have like 37 terabytes each. And then we have, like in that cluster, I think we have 20 Dell servers that are all, they're basically like JBODs, just a bunch of disks, and they run a tool called Weka on them. And Weka is this massive file system. And then each of the disks that are in these JBODs are, like, I want to say there's probably like 20 disks in each, and then the disks are 20 terabytes each disk. Yes, you heard that right. 20 terabytes per disk. So, yeah, it was kind of wild. YouTube, Agalord. Hey, Tana, sorry to bug you about unrelated stuff. Do you have a vid explaining your camera setup and connecting to Grafana? I may peruse. So, hold on a second. If you're talking like this one. And by the way, guys, Ranger's bed came. And Ranger's bed is a double XL bed for dogs. And it is so small compared to his other two beds. So I'm kind of not super happy with it. So we just put on top of this other bed, and then he's been laying on it. But it looks like Ranger's way down over here right now. But Agalord, if you're talking about this one, the problem with this is this setup is on a much older version of Grafana. Grafana's up on like version 11 now, and this one is still on 6.7. So I don't think that you can even download this version anymore. But what I would tell you is this is not super difficult. But you do have to, there's a few things you have to change about how Grafana works to get this to work. So this is simple. Look, all I'm doing is passing through an iframe from the source file on what's 195.80. So this is my MPEG in my environment. And that's just passing through as an iframe directly as HTML in the page for this to work. But here's the thing. I don't think you can actually do this anymore in newer versions of Grafana. Because when you set this up, you got to go like this. You got to go over here. You got to go to the home lab. SSH to Grafana. Let's make sure I'm on the right one, which is should be 219. Yep, so this is the older one. And then in here for the Grafana INI, so let me just more Grafana. Yeah. Let me just look for, let's do this. grep-v. And what you have to do for this to work, and I don't know, Agalord, if this is still true, but to get this to work, you have to go configure a bunch of things that are not default. So you have to disable the sanitize for HTML, or this won't work. You can't pass an iframe directly through anymore. Also, I also use it for right here with Nagios. It's the same thing with the Nagios monitoring, and that comes directly off a web page. So look, you can go directly into Nagios as well. So right into their whatever host group all whatever. But hold on. So back here, you've got to set this value here, which is disable the sanitize. Then when you go up a little bit, you have to also, there's a thing called dirty. Let me look here. So what I did, guys, if you missed it, was I stripped out all of the comments. So all the comments have been removed. So let's do that same thing. Let's just do that same thing and then pipe it through more so I can look. I also had to change. It's been a long time. It's been a long time since I looked at this. Disable sanitize definitely was one of them. Then the other ones, so there were like 3 things I had to change. Allow embedding had to be true. And then, and these aren't right. Those aren't accurate anymore. I got much different passwords. But that's the initial setup. And then, hold on. I think there's one other one that I had to change. I thought it was sanitize or dirty, but there's like another term for that. Hold on, I'm looking. Generic OAuth. We didn't use any of this. We didn't use any of this. It's not any of that. Not any of that. Not any log stuff. It's not any syslog stuff. It's not quota. It's not alerting. It's not that, or metrics or tracing. It wasn't any of this. Disable sanitize for sure had to be done. Anyways, the point is, Agalord, yeah, I could link this all and show it to you guys and drop it in the Discord, but the thing is, it's a moot point because I'm using a very old version of Grafana. For it to be any value to you, I'd probably have to go redo it on my new one. So this is my older Grafana, and then I've got the Prolug Grafana. This is the 218. This is the newer one, and this is up on version like 9.2, but I think they're up on version 10 now. And then I'd have to go redo it because it's all new. There's all new configs in there. So unfortunately, I don't have any good new info on that Agalord. So I could definitely put that on my list of things, but it would probably be a little while to get down the list and work it off. I've never played with Perf Sonar, no. Sweaty. Revisualize said, what Dell servers were you talking about? My like in my home lab? I have 4 Dell servers in my home lab. But no, I don't think I was talking about them now. That's for Revisualize on the Twitch side. Yeah, I don't think I have any of those over there. Or I didn't mention them. How's Ranger doing? Still just laying down there. I need to move this whole big, this is a really big rug. I'll move it over here for him, so it's easier for him to get up out of that bed. But that's Ranger for you, laying against back wall. And then it's weird. That's like a dark brown bed, but that looks like, does not look dark brown to me. It looks almost blue, but I'm colorblind, so what do I know? All right, let's get that out of the way. Oh, wait, no, we need that still. Go back to our playbook. All right, it says 1 minute and then it's going to fail. I just wanted you guys to see like what this environment, like what these kind of look like, and then how the packages get updated and how they get called, so you can play with that stuff if that's kind of interesting to you. I've been taking my notes, so all these notes like this are going up into the Discord under the notes section. So if you are, if you're interested in doing some of these labs or watching some of this later, I often try to get you guys to open up your notebooks while we're doing this and take notes and work through this stuff, right? But, what is this system doing? What is the last thing it did? After it removed all the packages, it's doing a Jinja template. Right, so when it's all done, it deploys a Jinja 2 template as a report back to just the one main server. Oh, there's our environment dying. That's fine. Let's go back. Go to all our labs. And then the question earlier was around like how we package systems up. And I have down in the HashiCorp labs a little bit about Packer. So if you guys have never really played with Packer much, where do I have it? I think I have it actually in... Man, I haven't looked in this in a while. I know we use Terraform for it, but I thought I had a part where I used some Packer. Let's see. I gotta go look. I haven't looked at this in a long time. I haven't done a lot with HashiCorp since they went to their business source license. These are just regular images. Terraform Lab. Oh yeah, we just use Terraform for this. I didn't actually make you guys. So maybe I need to put together some Packer ones because I had mentioned showing you guys how to do Packer. But the nice thing too is they do have some good Packer labs for you guys if you want to try it. That's their pay for one. You can actually just go and I think it's learn.packer.io. Is that right? Nope. Yeah, so here it's under their tutorial. It's developers. There we go. But they'll show you how to use Packer to build up inside of Docker. So if you guys have never used this, here's the little HashiCorp section. This is one of the reasons I never bothered to build some of these out, is they already have some good ones here. But they'll show you how to go and install it on a box. And you can do it on your own box, but then also I think they have... I thought they had like a tutorial section that would show you how to do it. Maybe not. Well, if they don't, here's the nice thing. I do have a lab that has it all built in. So I'll send you guys the link to the lab that I have that has all of the stuff built in. So under the HashiCorp sandbox, I actually install all of their tools right here. So we could do all of the install, and then we could go and we could just start building an image right here, right from their little tutorial here. So there's the HashiCorp training. It says that my lab is installing here. So if any of you guys want to go play with this is the little lab that is a little HashiCorp playground in my labs. And then here's the HashiCorp training, which is that same one I think I have over here. Yeah. And then some of you guys know I was Terraform Certified Associate and Vault Certified Associate, but I let them lapse because there really wasn't a need after the whole business source license. I've kind of went all Ansible since then. I haven't really messed with their stuff, but this lab still has it in the background. It's installing these tools, so it just takes a little while to come up. So if I say which right here, Packer, I have Packer. If I say which Terraform, I should have Terraform, and if I say which Vault, I have Vault. So in this little lab here for HashiCorp Labs, I've installed their tools so you could go do any of this stuff here. So, you know, Packer tutorial, CD to Packer tutorial. I'm just in a 1 hour little lab environment here where I could do whatever I wanted, and then I could just touch Docker Ubuntu .packer .hcl. It's HashiCorp language, right? So you don't need, look, in Linux, you don't actually have to do any of this if you guys don't want. But the .hcl does help you keep track of stuff. And then here's the HashiCorp language for Packer. It's going to use some plugins, so it's going to have to go download some stuff, right? It's going to have source Docker. It's going to use source Docker, and then it's going to name it Ubuntu from the image Ubuntu Jammy, commit true, and it's going to download it, and then it's going to build it as learn Packer, right? So if I get all this, hit I, Control-Shift-V, I should be able to, right, just build Packer. So they explain it all to you. They tell you what it's all doing. And then we have to, so Packer, much like all their tools, is using things that aren't downloaded by default. So it's using kind of these, it's the same kind of thing. They call them as like providers over on Terraform, or in this case, they're calling it a plugin. So it doesn't have these. It doesn't have the Docker one yet because we didn't get it. So when we do the Packer init, it's going to go download those things. So I want to do an ls-al real quick in this directory. We don't have anything hidden right now. Packer init dot is going to go download all the things that it needs, right? So if we do an ls-al now in this directory, well, maybe it's, oh, it went down in here, right? So then we can go look at the plugins if we wanted to. That's fine. So now we've done the init. Now we can verify that our format's not all jacked up. And one of the things I always show you guys, if you VI Docker, this HashiCorp language, this looks pretty much like JSON, right? I always tell people this is like somewhere in my mind between JSON and YAML, because it's not quite JSON and it's not quite YAML. But I want to show you guys something real quick. I'm going to put this to the left like this. Now, would this work for, like if I just left this like this, it would be ugly as crap. But would it work in the validate? Yes, this will validate. Watch. It'll validate. But it looks like crap. So when you format it, it goes, hold on, buddy. I'll make it look nice again for you. So just know that format is changing something. And if you format like a whole directory like this, if you format a whole directory, you will change the checksum of your system. So if you were doing something and then validating, I only want to use this like HashiCorp language, this Docker Packer file here, if it's the exact same one, and then somebody formats your directory, just know that it's not going to functionally really change anything. It's just going to make it pretty, but that will change the hash value of your tool. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. It moved all these things back in so they're nice and pretty, but that will change the value of the file. So, and if that doesn't make sense, don't worry about it. All right, last thing we can do is just packer build. Oh, by the way, Podman images, Podman PS, Docker images, Docker PS, nothing running on the system. Well, yeah, you can make it formatted, or well, but the point is, if you make something accurate but it's not formatted, it can just format it for you. Like I wouldn't say, like if you're just writing something quick or just copying it, you can let it format it as long as it's a good file. You know, if you dropped it all on one line, it would format it for you, I'm pretty sure. All right, anyway, so I just wanted you guys to see there's nothing Podman, nothing Docker. Now we're going to do Packer build. And it's going to go and it's going to poll. It's going to do all the things it needs to do. And you can use that to start building your system images if you need to, right? So I just pulled down a little Ubuntu image, right? And now if I go to Docker images, like they show, we've got it. Ubuntu Jammy. And then we could go and start to add packages or remove things or do whatever. And Packer will help you to clean up. So we can remove the image. We can add more. And then look, they just start to show you how to provision things. So now we need to do all the regular stuff. And then we're going to start to add environmental variables and then log into the shell and write things into the shell, which is important maybe, right? And then we can build the image, and then we can run the image and go look, and we can see that file. So they're just going to keep walking you through more and more of this, but that's all tied back to this little HashiCorp playground lab that I have. I never bothered to just make a bunch of different tutorials in here because I was like, well, you just got all this out here. You could just go look through it. But like if you guys wanted individual Packer tutorials, I would just follow their stuff, right? They've got all the stuff right here that'll show you how to do this. You can start dropping in variables, and you can start to provision in the shell, and this will start to make, this is just doing Docker, right? But then you say, well, Scott, hold on, I want to do AMIs, right? I want to do, so this was that one. I want to do stuff up in cloud. Well, AWS, you can go build up to AWS, right? And we used to use this in my home lab. I actually have some of these if I want to go turn them on. I think I have this node down right now. Let me go turn on. Where's he at? I moved some of my stuff around the other day. Oh, he's in here. Was it streamers? Nope. Might still have it down here. I gotta think of which node this was. It's not here. I think it was this guy. Let's go see how much memory we have. Oh, we got plenty of memory in here. Let's go. Wait a minute. Ah, this guy requires 16 gigs though. Do we got memory for him? Yeah, we got enough memory for him. We can turn him on. I want to say this was the box I used to use. Let's go look real quick. We gotta go check some stuff. Go look in here real quick. Does Moodle still have... Oh, I took him out. I want to say... Well, we'll go check what his IP is and see if we can still get him. I haven't been in this box in a long time. But this is the box that I used to use for all of my HashiCorp stuff back in the day. Is he the old vault? He might be 188. Let's go look. He's coming up. All right. Wrong password. Got it. He is 188. He is 188. All right. Was anything else on 188? Nope. Oh, the vault server, but we don't really care about him. I don't even think he's on right now. Hold on. Did I turn the new vault back on? Did he get deleted the other day? Huh. I don't remember, guys. Tiny memory. All right, anyways, we'll get it to him here. Let's go to vault. All right. Let's do this the right way. 188 is going to go back to Moodle. And then we're going to vi root.sh known. Excuse me, and we're going to look for 188. Get rid of that one too, it doesn't matter. All right, escape colon WQ, SH to Moodle. Yes. All right, clear them up. CD root. Yeah, so this was all my old. I used to show you guys when I used to run all my Amazon stuff out of here. This was how I would write my image, and I used to build this for you guys back in the day. Hey, how's it going, non-major nerd? We're just hanging out. We're not working too hard today. Just doing some labs and looking around. This is the old lab stuff, and then this was how we would get into my Amazon Elastic Block Storage, and I would go and I would put this image that I was building up there from the original Amazon Linux 2 system that I had, right? And then Provisioner would provision it as the last box. And then I think I had an AWS Ubuntu one as well. And I used to build these, and then I would have my version of those with Redis or whatever tools I wanted on them up in the cloud. And then I would deploy them. So for you guys that weren't around when I used to deploy them, we used to... Is this also... Hold on. Is this guy also... Oh, we have Vault on here too. I have my old Vault back. Anyways, where was this? Oh, maybe I never did that. Yeah, here was my Bastion stuff. I don't even remember. I don't even. Oh, we were doing. Me and Pessa were generating these little PNGs. There's this convert tool. Oh, what the hell was the name of that tool? God, this is old. I don't even have my. I normally keep my dates on my scripts, but I didn't write it on this one. Oh, that was fun. It's been a while since I've worked on that one. 2022, March, so almost 3 years ago. But yeah, we were doing some pretty cool stuff in some of these. But anyways, the point is you can go play in the sandbox and get these variables, and you can set all this up, right? One of the reasons I didn't do the AWS stuff on here was you would have to use your own AWS keys, and I kind of thought that would feel weird to people. Like for me, it would be. I think it would be a little weird to take my AWS keys and put them into some random killer coda site, right? That seems weird. Seems like maybe I'm trying to harvest your keys or something, and I'm not. Um, but that's but I just didn't want it to become like a weird conflict. So there's tutorials for using AWS, and then there's tutorials just for using HashiCorp Packer if you wanted to. I never played with Vagrant to know how well this would work with Vagrant, but I mean it's something some of you guys might be interested in playing with. So there's definitely that. All right, let's get that out of there. Let's get out of the way there. How's Ranger doing? Hasn't moved. That dog. All right. What are we at? We're at 2 hours right now. Oh, it's almost one. Long day for me. Let's we'll go find somebody to raid over on the Twitch side of things. On the YouTube side, I can't do anything for you guys except tell you hopefully this stuff's useful to you. Hopefully you find some stuff that's maybe interesting to you. And if nothing else, maybe you join the Discord and hang out with other engineers talking about good stuff and maybe finding some things that are interesting to you. All right. Yeah, let's go raid somebody on the Twitch side. Who's on right now? Is Rob still on? Let's go see who's on right now. Practical's on. Wallaber's on. Guys that don't stream. Tech stuff are on. Let's go over to... We'll go raid over to... go hit Practical NPC, because he's always fun. The raid message is do all the Linux, if you want to do that. And for you guys that are normally around, I'll be around this week. So we'll be doing Linux and getting ready for the next round of the Linux sysadmin course for people that want to do that with us. So, all right, I'll talk to you guys later. Take care.